Hi everyone, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. My name is Megan and I do a lot of book haul videos, book review videos, as well as teaching videos. I teach middle school if you couldn't tell, and then just like some lifestyle videos and stuff in general. But for this video, it's like very much in the vein of booktube, and so I was hoping this one could be like a tag. So if there are others of you out there who have read this book or who have recently picked it up, I thought this would be kind of a cool way for us to show each other the books that stood out from this one. So this book is called Bibliophile Diverse Spines. It's by Jamice Harper and Jane Mount. I've been following both of them on Instagram for a really long time. Jamice Harper does Spines Vines on Instagram, that's her handle, as well as I think Diverse Spines is also hers. And then Jane Mount has her own account, as well as Ideal Bookshelf. That's her other account where she sells like book related art. So I have a coffee mug that looks a lot like this. It has this book art on it. I've purchased wrapping paper from her before. You can get little pins, stuff like that. So they collaborated on this really beautiful book that is like a book lover's book. So inside, it's gorgeously illustrated. These are the kinds of things you can see on Jane Mount's Instagram as well. And they have hundreds of book recommendations in here. And they're divided into categories. So this one is like story collections. There's some for young adults, children. This is the mysteries and horror section. Here's a middle grades recommendation list. And they also included a lot of other people's recommendations in here, like authors that recommend some other books that they like, other like bookstagrammers. This section is all on queer stories. And then there's also even, oh yeah, I thought this was so cute, little illustrations of authors' writing spaces. So I love Nick Stone. It was cool to see her little writing space. This is Nick Sharma. Oh, they also even have like cookbook recommendations within here. And again, just like influential book people. So this is so cool because the book itself is just gorgeous. Like this is such a fun one to have on your shelf. It's really fun to read through. You'll never be without a book recommendation ever again. You just crack this open and like, what are you in the mood for? Family sagas, book club darlings. I like that Amory's book club pick was in here. I do Amory's book club. If you're feeling uninspired by Instagram, you can find so many people to follow within this book. And I even have a lot of these books on my shelves already that I can totally pull from. A lot of the recommended books in here I've also already read and loved, so it was just cool to see like other people highlighting those books. But as I was reading through this, someone should have taken my phone away because I just kept placing orders for more and more books. So I ended up purchasing 8 books as a result of reading through this one. So hopefully that won't be the case for you, just, you know, because we gotta eat and pay rent and books don't do that. But I got a little carried away. So I wanted to show you the ones that just somehow stood out and made me buy them from the description or the recommendation or the cover. I don't even really know. It was sort of like interesting for me to like reflect on like, okay, this is the stack I ended up with. And I think it would be so interesting to see your stacks as well. So if you end up buying this beautiful book, I would love for you to also make this little Diverse Spines haul video, or maybe post it on Instagram or Instagram stories or something like that, and just tag me and let me know so I can see what you ended up buying. I'm so interested to see. So in no particular order, we're gonna take a look at these. This one is called Winter Counts by David Heska Wanbley Whedon. And I've actually already read this as well. So I heard about it, purchased it, and read it all within like a week. So this one is really good. It's like a crime novel with this guy who kind of has like a special set of skills. You know, he kind of works outside of the law on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota. The author is actually a lawyer, which I feel like is pretty common. Like there are quite a few lawyer writers who write kind of like crime thrillers. This one centers around like a drug ring that has infiltrated the reservation and, you know, is causing these overdoses, and they're trying to get to the bottom of who is bringing this poison into the reservation. And the main character is kind of like halfway working with law enforcement and halfway kind of like handling things in his own way. So if you like a crime thriller, this one is really good, and it just has that backdrop of reservation life, and he infuses a lot of information about Indian law and culture and just kind of like how things work on reservations and what makes them unique in the sense of like law enforcement and crime. So I'm glad that I picked this one up. Definitely recommend it. Somehow it stood out among the rest. Another one that I picked up and already read is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. A lot of people had recommended this one to me because I love The Mothers and The Office of Historical Corrections, which is also a book of short stories. This one is a book of short stories, and the whole book itself is fairly short. I was able to read this one in like one sitting while I was working on uploading a bunch of files and stuff on my computer, and I needed to like sit here but also be distracted, so this was kind of perfect. I knew I needed to check this one out because so many people had recommended it. It is really well written, beautifully written. I prefer The Mothers and I prefer The Office of Historical Corrections, but this one definitely has its place. I think Dear Sister was my favorite short story within the collection. I might be like too much of an actual church lady to recommend some of the stories. It's very, well, I was gonna say centered around sex, and I mean it is, so a lot of the stories are graphic, but I mean I can see what she's doing. Like she's using sex, this thing that is so taboo within Christian circles, but also there's so much hypocrisy around it, and there are so many ways that it's used to be like really oppressive and manipulative. And so, you know, that's definitely an interesting lens to look at the church through. And it's really like, she takes a very specific lens. We're looking at the Black church, like fairly conservative, you know, Baptist, maybe, I was gonna say Kojic, but this one actually doesn't really give me that vibe. Mothers is a little bit more that way. But anyway, it is really good. Just be warned that, you know, there is like strong sexual themes throughout, but I love how different all of the short stories are, and then there's like common threads between them, and two of the stories are actually like connected, you'll see in the end. So really well done. Okay, the rest of these I have not read, so these were just ones that stood out to me. I've heard about this one many times and seen the cover many times. I think that I've read books by Tiffany D. Jackson before, but I'm like not sure now. They may just like always be on my list. So this one's called Monday's Not Coming, and it sounds like it's a mystery. A girl named Monday has gone missing. It's the main character's friend, and she's trying to find her. And so in Diverse Spines, the person who recommended it said it's like the best young adult book they've ever read. So I was like, all right, I am picking this one up. Let's get started on this. Another one that I picked up is called Land of Big Numbers by Taiping Chen. And I think this is another book of short stories. Yes, a debut collection, a vivid portrayal of the men and women of modern China and its diaspora. I live in that diaspora. The majority of the people in my community have family who came from China, or they themselves came from China or Taiwan. Many of the families in the school where I teach are from China, or, you know, second or third generation. And so anytime that a book makes it possible for me to kind of get a glimpse into their experience and their perspective, or maybe the way that they tend to view the United States and our culture and like how things work here, I'm always really eager to do that. So I'm excited to read this one. It looks like it has about 10 short stories. Just sounded so interesting, so can't wait to read this one. This is another one that just sounded so good. It's called The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner. It's about Vietnam, but it also says, you know, intelligent, relentlessly paced, and savagely funny. It's kind of a satire of the Vietnam War, but at the same time, I'm sure you learn a lot about the Vietnam War through it. The narrator is a communist double agent. He's a man of two minds, half French, half Vietnamese army captain who comes to America after the fall of Saigon, and while building a new life with other Vietnamese refugees in Los Angeles, is secretly reporting back to his communist superiors in Vietnam. The Sympathizer is a blistering exploration of identity and America, a gripping spy novel, and a powerful story of love and friendship. And this one it's creeping up on 400 pages, so it's a little bit of a longer one, but this one just sounded so interesting. For so much of us, I feel like what we know about the Vietnam War is just like very much of an American perspective, and we don't get to hear nearly as much about what life is like for refugees who came here or anything like that. And this one just sounds like a very entertaining and interesting way to learn more about those stories. So gosh, where do I even start? How do I decide which one to read next? 2 down, but 7 more to go. I love Louise Erdrich. She's just one of my favorite authors ever. I have quite a few of her books, but I didn't have this one called Love Medicine, and I think it might be her most famous, maybe like the most sold copies or something like that. She's written so many, and everything that I've read by her is just so good. Oh, this one says the stunning first novel. I don't know, I knew there was like something about it that was kind of like crucial for me as a Louise Erdrich fan. I just knew I needed to read this one. So it's a multi-generational portrait of strong men and women caught in an unforgettable drama of anger, desire, and the healing power that is love medicine. So excited to read this one as well. Oh, and Louise Erdrich also, she lives in Minnesota and she owns an independent bookstore called Birch Bark Books. And within this one, they also have a bunch of recommendations of independent bookstores all over the country. So Birch Bark Books is in there, and then several in like my area in LA and Long Beach and stuff. So I gotta hit up some of those bookstores. It makes me want to travel to some other cities. Oh, like there was one in like Oakland or San Francisco that looks really cool. I just want to like go check out these bookstores. Okay, 2 more. This one I did not realize was so thick. I always like to find the page though that where it like really ends, because see, we've got like notes on methodology, acknowledgements, and then all of the end notes. Okay, so it really is 538 pages, and it's a tall book. There is a lot of information in here. This is The Warmth of Other Suns, The Epic Story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson. This is another Pulitzer Prize winning book. She also wrote Caste. Gosh, I feel like I don't know nearly enough about her. She's clearly a historian, but this is also narrative nonfiction, lyrical and tragic and fatalist. So I always love to read like different ways of doing history really well. So to read this narrative nonfiction sounds really cool. I am a little bit intimidated by the length, so we'll see when I start this one. Usually I read this kind of stuff when I have like writing projects of my own that I need to do research for, so maybe soon I'll have more of an excuse to read through all of this, but it sounds amazing. Okay, the last one was longer than I expected it to be. Like when it arrived, I was like, oh, okay. This one is called The Narrows by Anne Petrie, and this book was written a long time ago. So Anne Petrie lived from 1908 to 1997. The copyright is 1953. I really like these books that were written, you know, decades and decades ago that just like still really resonate. I think the way that it was described in this one was like one of the best books that you've never heard of and you've never read. I'm currently reading Passing by Nella Larson. It's quite short. I started it last night, so I'm sure I'll finish it today. And there's a Netflix movie version of it coming out, so I just wanted to read it before I watched the movie version. I've had it forever and I like know the premise, but oh my goodness, The writing is so, so good. And earlier this year, I read one by Sonora Babb about like the Great Depression and Okies and moving to California and everything. And it was written kind of right during that time, but it competed too much with Steinbeck, so it wasn't published until later. So it seems like there are a lot of these female authors who wrote these masterpieces that are not really being appreciated until much later. So I thought this would maybe be something similar. It's long, but it has really wide margins. So maybe this will go faster than I think. On the back it says, Link Williams is a handsome and brilliant Dartmouth graduate who tends bar due to the lack of better opportunities for an African-American man in a staid mid-century Connecticut town. The routine of Link's life is interrupted when he intervenes to save a woman from a late-night attack. Drinking in a bar together after the incident, Camillo discovers that her rescuer is African-American and he learns that she is white. Unbeknownst to him, Camillo, actually Camilla Treadway Sheffield, is a wealthy married woman who has crossed the town's racial divide to relieve the tedium of her life. Thus brought together by chance, Link and Camilla draw each other into furtive encounters that violate the rigid and uncompromising social codes of their towns and times. So it sounds like there are a few parallels to Passing and some of the other kind of classic literature that was written around this time. So also excited to jump into this one. I don't know which one to read next. Help me decide. Leave a comment below and tell me which one you think I should read next, because now I'm like stuck. I'm like, oh man, all of these sound so good. I've got 6 left to read, plus all the, other ones that are sitting here like staring at me like, are you gonna come back? Are you gonna come back to me? So many good ones. It's a good problem to have. So anyway, I hope that you also pick up this book if you're a book lover, because it's just so beautiful. And then I'm so curious to see which ones of the hundreds of recommendations within that book that you end up checking out from the library or getting on an ebook or audiobook or actually purchasing. As you can tell, probably, I'm a really big fan of like physical books. I just love being surrounded by actual books. I like the process of sitting down and relaxing and opening up a physical book rather than like an e-reader or, audiobook or whatever. I still appreciate those from time to time, but my preference is just to have like a physical book in hand that I can kind of like go back to, that I can underline. I dog ear the pages. Like, I use my books. I have all these books, but I read them and I use them and I go back to them and I underline in them and I use them in my teaching. I use them in like curriculum that I write and in presentations that I do and other books that I write. So like I use these. So I always feel like it's a good investment for me to actually purchase books and support authors and support small independent bookstores. There's nothing I love more than going to a bookstore and buying books from them. I will link all of these ones down below. I like to use bookshop.org so that if you want to order them, it's still helping independent bookstores, but you can still just like have that ease of getting it in the mail. So check the description box for that. And thank you so much for watching today. Love getting to talk with you guys, my fellow readers and book nerds, about books, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.